Welcome in, Ryan Chapman here, the AllSooners Softball Show, firing off right now as Oklahoma turns the page for the last time. The Sooners will open Big 12 play at home in Norman. For the first time, they'll open Big 12 play at Love's Field as Oklahoma hosts a 3-game set against the Iowa State Cyclones. Big weekend for a couple reasons. Obviously, Big 12 conference play getting underway, but also part of Oklahoma's response after seeing their 71-game winning streak come to an end last weekend at the hands of Louisiana. Talked to Patty Gasso, Alina Torres, Sydney Sanders this week. Stick with us because on the other side, tell you everything they got into as Oklahoma looks to start anew, sharpen, hone, all of that stuff headed into conference play here on the show. Hello, like I said, we are firing off here, the AllSooners Softball Show. Full disclosure, peeling the curtain back, the schedule absolutely slammed. If you're on allsooners.com, you see we are flooded with football content, which means I had to record this show Wednesday afternoon before the Sooners took on Texas A&M Commerce. So don't have anything on that result for you here. If they lost, you'll never see any of this. Wipe it away. It will be a new show, all that stuff. Obviously, Oklahoma being backed by Patty Gasso to respond in a big way. She's been, frankly, if you're still thinking about the streak, you've thought about it 4 or 5 days longer than I think Patty Gasso or the team or anybody thought about that. At the end of the day, Patty Gasso said the team was a little embarrassed by how they played, all the errors, miscues, things like that. But she had no worries about how the team would look when they came back to practice on Tuesday to get mentally locked in and fire off as the Sooners have a big week ahead with conference play opening.
I think the bodies are still a little bit tired. When you think about where we've been and what we've been doing, everybody's kind of in the same boat. You're playing 5 games every weekend. Wears you out. I've got some seniors. They definitely feel it differently than they used to. But we had a good day today. We talked a lot. We talked about what we felt and how we need to make some changes. There was a lot of conversation in the classroom, and then just feeding them confidence out on the field. I think they were embarrassed a little bit by Sunday because they knew that they underachieved, and I do not have any worries. I'm not at home going, what are we going to do? We had a bad game. We had a bad game at the World Series one year. And then I think we had 5 errors in 1 inning, and we ended up winning a national championship. So if I'm not panicking about one thing right now, we're fine. We're athletic. We know what it takes.
If anything, I think many people on this team are able to play free and loose. We talked to Jada Coleman on radio on Monday, and she said that Oklahoma can focus on just playing relaxed and not playing like not to lose, things like that. And Alina Torres kind of mirrored that. Now, everyone always has said to a T, no one's thinking about the streak, no one's talking about the streak, all that. But she did acknowledge it could be a little reset button for Oklahoma as they're 20 games in now, getting ready to turn the page. That second third of the season, as Patty Gasso says so much, the conference portion where you could go win something, which is a Big 12 regular season title. Here's what Alina Torres had to say.
Yeah, I think it keeps us free, honestly. We weren't really worried about the streak or whatever was going on with that, but you just have to tip our caps to Louisiana. They had a really good game, and I think that really just put a fire under our team, and I think it's going to help us in the long run, like Sid was saying. So, you reset every game, and it's hard to go out day in, day out and just perform at your best. So I think it's really good for us that we kind of got hit back in the face and we know how to respond. So it's going to be exciting.
One thing that will need to get tightened up absolutely is Oklahoma's pitching staff. It's one of the strengths of the team to this point, outside of maybe a nervy performance from Kirsten Deal in Puerto Vallarta that she's recovered from in a big way, outside of maybe some weirdness as far as that Nicole May outing against Washington where she gave up no earned runs, but you have the obstruction call, stuff like that. The Sooners pitching staff had been pretty nails. They'd only given up 2 home runs total all season long, gave up 8 combined over opening weekend at Love's Field, 5 of those at the hands of Miami of Ohio. One thing that Patty Gasso said, it's just, yes, she acknowledged it was not what they needed it to be, but there are many, many different fixes that they can make across that group of pitchers as they go 6 deep, as she said here.
Again, just to settle yourself, have confidence. I feel like we might have been trying a little bit too hard. Too many walks, too many hit batters, too many free bases. Balls started getting, and then it just starts to, like a snowball rolling out of control. Just then people start squaring up the ball, things like that.
One player who didn't look out of sync at all for opening weekend was first baseman Sydney Sanders. She's someone that took a lot of time to really come online last year. It was about maybe the last weekend before conference play started, where Oklahoma headed out to Mineville, Ohio to take on the Red Hawks, and that's where she kind of got her season going, and suddenly she looked a lot closer to the player who banged over 20 home runs her freshman year at Arizona State. Opening Love's Field, she went 4 of 8 across the 5 games, 6 RBIs, drew 3 walks, a huge weekend for Sydney Sanders. Patty Gasso's talked about how, first off, she knows Sydney Sanders. She's backed her to respond to the kind of slump to start the year. But also, Patty Gasso's been quick to point out, hey, when Sydney Sanders isn't necessarily hitting the ball, she's still getting on base. She's still drawing those key walks. And she's dealing with that competition at first base, some Riley Ludlam, Ella Parker, all of that, wanting to make sure she holds on to that starting spot. Here's what Sydney Sanders had to say about settling in and finally kind of seeing the results come to her this past weekend as the Sooners open Love's Field.
Just playing free, honestly. Like, I felt myself a little this weekend, like, just not really thinking about anything and just going for it. Like, I feel like that's when I play at my best. So I think that's something I should be doing going forth, and I think we'll see a big difference. I feel like I've try to have a really good eye at the plate, just getting on base whenever I can for my team. I finally was able to hit the ball this weekend, so it was fun. I don't know, it was like a different story from the previous weeks, but I like walks too. They're just as good as a hit.
Up first on the Big 12 slate, it's the Iowa State Cyclones. Coming off a rough week in Iowa State, but Patty Gasso has plenty of respect for the Cyclones. It was a madhouse in Ames last year. People hanging from the rafters, people on top of the dugout. Craziness all around. But Patty Gasso said Iowa State one to keep an eye on, as they've always matched up very well with Oklahoma.
Iowa State always gives us fits. They've got good pitchers. They're coached well. They hit the ball notoriously pretty hard. They always give us good runs for our money. It's the start of our last Big 12 conference play. I know these guys will be fired up for that. So we'll have a battle this weekend, no question.
As always, the All-Sooners crew will be out at Love's Field every single day, bringing you everything from post-game against Iowa State, all those game stories, anything else that comes out. I'll have my Sunday wrap that drops Sunday after things settle down. About 6 o'clock is usually the target. Might get moved back a little bit if the game's a little bit later in the day. All that stuff. But all that content will be at AllSooners.com. Not just the softball show that you're watching here, obviously, but all those videos, all those stories, and all the great work from John Hoover, Randall Sweet, Bryce McKinnis, Ross Lovelace, and myself, Ryan Chapman. So be sure you're rocking with AllSooners.com. Exciting time. We've got the NCAA tournament, Big 12 tournament's about to fire up for the men's and women's basketball teams. Spring football is upon us, kicking off officially practice 1, March 11th, and of course, the continued coverage of everything OU softball. Be sure you're there, allsooners.com, and I will talk to you on the All Sooners Softball Show next Tuesday.